Okay, now that you've approached the brand, established a relationship with them, and you're in a conversation about possibly putting something together, whether it's you proposed to them or they decided to approach you with something, either way, now we're at the point where they're either asking you to put something together so they can discuss it with their internal team, or if they haven't really asked, you can always say, hey, listen, those ideas where we're talking about, why don't I put together a proposal for you guys, and so you can see my rates and what I can do, and then maybe we can schedule a follow-up call. Always, always, always schedule a follow-up call. So don't just send an email. Always make sure that this email has kind of a deadline of them looking at it, discussing it, and hopefully talking to you about it, and hopefully moving forward with it. So what do you know now? Well, you have to put together a brand proposal. Now, if you watched my course about how to put together a media kit, this is very similar. As a matter of fact, it has quite a few pieces from the media kit. So make sure that you kept those pieces, as you should anyway, in order to update your media kit. But you will be moving them to the brand proposal. So let's talk about that. And by the way, if you haven't seen that part of my course, I strongly recommend, because it is a big deal to have a media kit. But now we're going to move on to the brand proposal. And of course, just like with the media kit, we're going to start with a cover page. It is important. They will judge you less by your cover, because now they know who you are. But nevertheless, you want to be impressive all the way through. So the brand collaboration proposal, as I call it, have your own, and we're going to talk about creating graphics for it in just a few minutes. Make sure to put their logo, make sure to put their name, make sure to customize it for them, because they don't want to just have just a general proposal that you're sending out to everybody. They want to feel special. They want to feel like, hey, this guy or this gal took their time and put together a proposal for us, for our needs, and putting their logo, putting their names on it is extremely important. So you absolutely should do that. Of course, have an overview, just like with your media kit. This is mine. It's a quick description of my channel and a screenshot. And by the way, I'm sharing my media kit for my other channel that talks about electric cars. And I really, really strongly discourage you from copying any of this. Please look at these samples as simple an example, illustrations of what I'm talking about. You should definitely have your own style. It should match your website, your channel, whatever social media platform you're creating your content on. And of course, it should be relevant to your industry. You want to look at other media kits that are common in your industry. Again, if you have a friend who is a PR person or marketing person in that industry, ask them maybe for some samples, or check out the brand that you're dealing with. Check out their style. A lot of times you want to create, and I know it does take some time, but this is something that's going to help you make a living on this. Create a proposal in their style. If this is just really a big brand partnership or very tight brand partnership, maybe you'll use their colors, and so they can be looking at the brand proposal that's very familiar with them. So it's a good idea to put some effort. So please don't copy what I'm doing here. As a matter of fact, this is just a general rule on YouTube and out there in social media. You have to be unique. So should be your media kit and your brand proposal. So just please don't copy. Now let's move on to the stats. And this is just as crucial as it is in media kit, but in this case, you might want to add more stats in your brand proposal, because this is where they're going to dig in. And of course, you want to tell them, hey, listen, if there are any other stats that you want to see, I will make sure to, just let me know what they are, and I'll make sure to dig into the analytics and get those stats to you. But the most important ones definitely should be there. The growth in views and watch time. If you're on YouTube, of course, how many hits or downloads your blog or podcast has. The stats that they definitely want to see. There are stats about your other social media presence, and of course demographics, location, age, sex, and everything that's relevant to the brand trying to reach their audience. But of course, figure things out on your own a little bit, because I can only help you generally here. You really need to know your industry and make sure that the stats that your brands want to see that are custom for that industry, make sure that those stats are there. Just like I said, that really, really matters, and what it is that that you're talking about, what it is that those brands that you're working with are looking for. So make sure to just not just copy these general points, but add your own stuff in there as needed. um, Best off, it's always good to include sort of your best moments, the screenshots, like these are mine, so people know that not only I do daily news, I also do on location reporting, I do interviews, and I also do product reviews, which a lot of times are cars or accessories. So even if you're a young channel or podcast or a blog, I'm sure you have your best moments. So make sure to put them together to showcase what your social media project is all about. Showcase partners. If you worked with different brands before or different leaders in the industry, make sure to put it in there. In my case, I put the list of all of the big names that I've interviewed within the industry. Most of them are either CEO of automotive companies, or I've interviewed a couple of congressmen. So all of that matters, and that showcases how in demand you are as social media influencer. So you can say, in my case, I said, well, listen, if Henrik Fisker, the CEO of Fisker, or Congressman Welch took their time to be on my show, maybe there's something there. Maybe you should take your time and your budget and be on my show as well. And again, when I say show, it could be a podcast or a blog or your Instagram gallery, whatever it is that whatever social media platform that you're on. Testimonials. This is where testimonials become even more important. I know in the beginning you won't have as many, but this is why, remember, we talked about a free sponsor, sort of a placeholder. This is why it's important to have. This is a testimonial from my original sponsor that I got from the very beginning. It was barely paid even in products, but it created a relationship between us. We're still working together. They've taught me a lot with how to work with a brand, and I got this amazing testimonial. And the president of this company actually was willing to even take phone calls from my potential brand sponsors to let them know how he leveraged my channel to be able to get some exposure and sales. So that is extremely important. If you don't have a testimonial, try to have one, but you obviously you'll have more and more to work with as you work with more brands. That's why it's sometimes important to go on FameBit and get that $100 deal for a video that will take you a couple of days, which is like probably not worth it to you. But getting a testimonial out of it or a contact with the brand is totally worth it. Of course, contact info, I can't stress this enough. As you can see in my media kits and my brand proposals, my website, my YouTube channel, my email, and my phone number is right there on the bottom of every page. So there should be, if they want to give you a call or contact you in any way, they should not have any issues getting that information. It should be right in front of them at all times. So now this is something that you don't include in the media kit, and obviously this is something that becomes really, really important, which is your rate sheet. You want to give them as many sort of choices as possible, even if they don't ask for them. In my case, I try to do monthly rates rather than rates per video. But even if they do ask for per video list, I have a comparison about how much money they can save versus how much more reach they're going to get if they go with my monthly package rather than going with one video. But in terms of how many times per week you're going to be able to putting their content out on which media, how many dedicated videos are going to have, how many shout outs, and all of that stuff. And also don't forget to tell them what they get for it and give them some options so they can pick and choose. In my case, I literally did screenshots and pointed out with red arrows which point of the screen and where all of their branding and advertisement is going to be, so that way they have a visual representation. Because yes, they should watch my channel to see how it all happens, but a lot of times they won't. They just want a quick glance to see how it happens. And don't forget, a lot of times they'll take your presentation and they will do a presentation of their own in front of their entire team, so they don't have time to say, well, now we're going to watch one of his or her videos. No, they want to say, listen, this is screenshots, this is where we get the branding, and off we go. So make sure that's very clear. And of course, you want to write him a customized letter, just like we did with the custom header, the custom cover page. The letter is also must address the person you're communicating with, or a lot of times I just say, to my friends at, and then the name of the brand, right? If you're addressing a bigger team. So you just kind of want to say, hey, listen, thank you for your interest. I'm attaching the proposal. I'm sure you will find it beneficial, and this is how, compared to, YouTube pre-roll ad rates or Google AdSense rates, I can deliver better value and much more targeted demographics for the lesser price, right? That's kind of the pitch, and should be the pitch for all of us with a smaller following, for the brand to see the value. Now, let's move on to something we've already talked about when we talked about the media kit and creating your own presence in other courses. But there are two ways how you can actually create this, because it does require some graphics design. And there are really two ways. One is you can hire somebody, and if so, I recommend this website called Fiverr.com. This is where you can find freelance graphics designers. They have ratings. They're in different countries. They have different rates. They have portfolios. That site hit and miss, but this is why you should don't pick the cheapest one. Make sure that you pick the one that has a lot of other customers that they've worked with. Maybe even ask for some referrals. And by the way, if you find one that you really like, hold on to them. You will need graphics needs. You will have graphic needs all the time, so make sure to hold on to the graphics designer if you find one that's good and charges a good rate. So Fiverr, there are other websites. Of course, you can go to Craigslist and LinkedIn and find graphics designers to pay them per hour or per project. That will probably be a little bit more expensive, but Fiverr is usually a sure way to at least get you started. But make sure that your brand proposal looks great, just as good as your media kit. All the colors and all of the fonts and all of that stuff should look exactly like your brand, unless you're creating in the style of the brand who you are hoping to do business with. That's another strategy. But graphics is very important. Of course, the other way is to learn it yourself. Photoshop is one of the most popular choices, though it's pretty complicated. But on another hand, you only need to know 3 to 5% of all of their features in order to do something like creating a brand sponsorship proposal or media kit and so forth. There are YouTube tutorials, but there are also other alternatives, web-based, desktop-based, and so forth. You can Google them. Again, I don't want to recommend. Photoshop is just most common one. This is what I use. I don't want to recommend because different people have different budgets. Different people have different types of sort of sense of what a graphics interface is easier for them. So I would say get 4 or 5 graphics software that's out there. Go into some YouTube videos that are proposing the kind of a basics about this software and see if it's something for you. And then of course you can make a decision about the price. Do you want to pay everything up front? Do you want to pay monthly like with Photoshop? Do you have that in your budget? And of course, how much time you want to dedicate to actually learning this. I recommend that you learn at least one of them, preferably Photoshop, because graphics design is something you really will need, not just for this brand proposals or emails and so forth, but also just on-screen graphics for your channel, for your blog. Even if you have a podcast, you still need graphics for cover designs, for website and so forth. So strongly recommend to pick one of them and run with it. In the beginning, you can pick people to hire people at first, but then when you have more time, you can learn it yourself. Or the other way around, of course. In the beginning, you can kind of figure it out yourself, but when you have less time and more money, you can start hiring people. So, of course, that's your choice, and only you as a businessman or as a businesswoman with your future full-time business can make that decision. Now, we already talked about this in the Media Kit course. The final file needs to be in PDF and PDF only. Make sure to have it on every device that you do business with, whether your laptop, your phone. So whenever someone's asking for it, boom, you can attach it right away. Make sure to drop it somewhere on your server so you this can be accessed via URL. Sometimes you can attach a file like with text messaging and so forth. So, but you can still, in my case, my URL is mywebsite.com/media.pdf. Boom, you can send it out. And of course, if you're handing them out at the conference or whatever, you can have a USB drive with your logo on it and that file in there. That does require a bit of a budget, but that's one of the ways to distribute your brand proposals. Again, I would still not recommend to just kind of blindly have a standard brand proposal, though. if you have one and you just happen to meet a brand that just wants a proposal right away, that's a thing. But the USB drives are probably work better with media kits rather than brand proposals. But it is just one of the options. Make sure that if somebody creates the graphics for you, you get the source file, right? So the final images, they're going to be probably going to be in JPEG or PNG, but the source files are the files that are specific for the software where they can create it. And if you don't get those, and let's say in another few months you need to get it updated or create a different one out of this one or different version, and you didn't get it from your previous graphic designer, and maybe they'll disappear, you're going to have to start over and pay the same money or more to get the same work done. So make sure to keep it in updatable format. And of course, if you're doing it yourself, make sure to keep your source file somewhere safe, and make sure this is in the format that others can edit it as well if you decide to hire a graphics designer later on down the road. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure that everything has a graphical representation. Don't use too much text. Try to use screenshots. Try to use as much graphics as possible, pictures, whatever it is to tell the story. Besides the rates have to be in numbers and dollar signs, of course, but just make it easy for those people who are reading it and presenting it to their teams to read it, to get to know you, to understand your stats, and of course to make sure that your rates look attractive based on what it is that you have to offer. So this is pretty much it. This is what goes into a brand proposal. You absolutely need to know how to create one. You need to know which pieces to maybe subtract from the list that I have for you here, and which maybe pieces to add if I didn't cover them, because they're probably very specific to your industry. Make sure that you can do this relatively quickly. You can say, hey, listen, I'll send this proposal by the end of the day. So if you're working with a graphics designer, make sure that they're on your speed dial and they're available. If you're doing it yourself, then make sure that you have all of the right equipment and software to do that pretty quickly, because they'll forget about you, they'll forget about the conversation. They might have a great relationship with you, but they have a great relationship with a lot of other brands and people and social media influencers. So you want to make sure that after you promise the brand proposal, you send it out to them relatively quickly. I suggest an email. Definitely make sure that there is a follow-up email, or definitely phone call. I always recommend the phone calls are actually on Skype or Zoom, where you can interact visually as well, share screens, see each other's facial expression and so forth, just have a more of a human interaction. But brand proposal is a must, and most importantly, there will be a lot of other social media influencers that don't have brand proposals. They'll just kind of type in an email, or they just say something on a phone call, they'll type in some numbers and that's it. It is much harder for some of those marketing and PR people to present it to their team or even take them seriously. This will definitely set you apart. You should put a lot of effort into this, and that way it will get you much closer to the ultimate goal of getting that deal and getting you closer to the full-time gig, which will be the social media influencer. And that's what this is all about.